Hi, everyone. Welcome to the November 2021 Strength of Community chat called A Season of Gratitude and Thanks. My name is Mike Martinez, your co-host this month, and I'm part of the communications team at the Front Porch Home Office in Glendale. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Strength of Community, it's a periodic Front Porch event that brings together residents and staff from throughout Front Porch. Topics vary by month, and the overall goal is to celebrate connections, share stories, and engage with each other. So for many, this time of the year is a time of thanks and gratitude. So today we are going to hear stories from our guests that we hope will inspire you. We're also going to learn more about the new Front Porch Communities Foundation and how it, through your generosity, is making a difference in so many lives and at our communities. Before we continue with our guests, I would like to introduce my co-host, Catherine Miller. She is the Executive Director of the Front Porch Communities Foundation. Catherine?
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everybody. And I am so grateful to see so many faces of residents that I haven't seen in so long. So thank you all for joining us. As Mike said, I am the Executive Director of the Front Porch Communities Foundation, and I want all of our Northern California friends to know that I am also the Executive Director of the Covia Foundation. The two foundations are in existence in parallel right now as we work on consolidating all of the foundations into a single entity. Those in Southern California know that we have consolidated the three Southern California-based foundations into the newly created Front Porch Communities Foundation. The focus of the foundation is the same as the predecessor foundations. We are raising and administering charitable funds for our communities, for our people, and for our programs. And I am just thrilled to be with an organization that has such a great reputation. Covia Communities and Front Porch share the same values, the same mission. And I think that as we get to know each other, we're going to be able to do great work together. The work that I do is sort of my passion and calling in life. I am a nonprofit kid from way back, and I do what I do because I believe each one of us can make an impact, and in our own small way, we can change the world. And if enough people work on that, we can really do mighty things together. I am thrilled to work directly with residents out in the communities. Our communities are very special places, and I am really grateful that we have with us guests from our Santa Rosa community, Jerry and Barbara Porter today, and our Front Porch Communities Foundation Board Chair, Lynn North. And I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more in conversation about their involvement in their community and in the foundation. Both of them have long and very interesting histories, and if we can just jump right into it, Barbara and Jerry, I'll put you on the spot and ask you to introduce yourselves to our audience and tell us a little bit about your life at Spring Lake Village and before.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a privilege to be with you and to help launch this new chapter in the foundation life. I'm Jerry Porter. I'm an Episcopal priest, so it was an attractive incentive for me to move to Spring Lake Village 6.5 years ago. We've been very involved in the community and doing a variety of things. I've been very involved in the life of the chapel and also was president of the resident council for a year and very much enjoy this community and the staff. It's a wonderful, healthy place. And so we're looking forward to our new executive director coming, and we're embarking on another chapter in Spring Lake Village's life too.
We moved here, as Jerry said, 6.5, almost 7 years ago from the Seattle area, where we had lived for 24 years. Prior to that, we were in the Boston area for 25 years. I grew up in California, so as I was eager to get more sun after 24 years in Seattle. My background is a lot more multifaceted than Jerry's in terms of career. I seem to be one of those people who likes to continue learning new things. And I have sort of a 6-year cycle of wanting to start a new job. So I've been an international investment banker, a management consultant. I've been a senior vice president of marketing for a healthcare information company. I work for an actuarial consulting company focused on the healthcare industry. So, oh, and then my last job was a realtor, helping people find their new forever home. So here I've been involved with a variety of things, from the financial study group, where I was chair for a couple of years, our wonderful village store committee, I'm on that. I'm the resident rep for Spring Lake Village, to Front Porch and Covia. So a variety of things I've been involved with. And of course, we've gotten involved somewhat with foundation activities, but not on a particular committee supporting that, but just serving the community through our contributions.
No worries, Barbara, I'll be calling you. So.
I'm sure you will, Catherine.
Jerry,
No doubt.
you mentioned something in our earlier conversation about when you were looking at this next chapter of your life and looking to choose a retirement community, that the idea that there was a nonprofit that had a foundation had some resonance with you.
Yes, for sure. We did look at a variety of communities before we settled on Spring Lake Village. And when we heard that there was a foundation that supported residents who have outlived their resources, we thought that was a very great sign for the kind of organization we wanted to be a part of. And that continues to be resonating with us. So we participate in the, semi-annual Circle of Friends events that bring new monies to the Circle of Friends Fund and raise awareness among the communities for people to participate in that as well.
Great. And for those of our Southern California friends, the Circle of Friends is the name of the resident assistance funds in the Northern California communities. But
Right.
I'd love to go ahead and introduce Lynn North. Lynn is the board chair of the Front Porch Communities Foundation board and has been the long-term chair of the predecessor foundation at Sunnyview, our retirement community in Cupertino. Lynn, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such a special time to see all of you, because residents are really our purpose. You're the core of why we do what we do. And one of the reasons that I've been involved for so long goes back to my childhood, actually. My mom died when I was 9, and my 74-year-old grandmother raised 3 of us for 5 years. And I've dedicated my life to seniors because of that. And so when my mother-in-law came here in the middle of the 90s, she was at Sunnyview for 7 years. And that's when I started getting involved and have not left. You'll probably have to do an intercession, Catherine, to get me out. But anyway, I have loved being a part of it, because the best part, just as you heard earlier, listening to Jerry and Barbara, is we hear their stories. We listen to your ideas, and you give us incentive, because it's not only helping each other, like you said, with the residents' assistance, but we have so many stories, which we'll be sharing on this call today, to give you insight on how we've created true community with our staff, as well as with the residents, and doing some amazing work together. So thank you for introducing me.
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell us one of your stories right now? We heard one. I've heard
Okay.
one from many from you in the past. So go ahead.
Just do this when you want me to stop telling them, because we have lots of them. Well, one of the great stories that I love, I really do, and it was just absolutely perfect timing before we went through this pandemic together, is one of the challenges we've always felt is we want our assisted living residents to feel independent, but also to be protected. And so we used to have a lot of staff with them. And all of a sudden it occurred to us, working with Kari Olson and our tech team, that we could use some technology to give them independence and mitigate falls, obviously. But then we went into a pandemic that was even better. So what we did as a board is we made sure every resident in all of Sunnyview's assisted living had a Nest, which is a thermostat type controlled device, as well as what we call Alexa or Echo. And so basically using your voice, you could say, turn up the lights, turn on the heat, call my brother, play my favorite music, anything. And you're not having to get up and down and worry about falls, at the same time having an amazing way of connecting with the world. And now we're in a pandemic where everyone's in their own rooms. So we felt so great that we had utilized the tools and technology to help them. The other thing that we did that I thought was really insightful prior to just before we went into COVID is we had arranged for every resident to have their own iPad. And we had heard since during a lot of different conversations with them that 3 of the residents in Sunnyview had attended grandchildren's weddings all over the world, one in South Africa, actually. And another one had visited their family farm in Illinois through Google Maps, where they actually went back and looked at what it looks like today. So I would offer to you that those are just 2 stories where technology really made a difference, especially since we've been in a pandemic for a lot of our residents.
Oh, that's awesome. Barbara and Jerry, can you give us tell us a story or give us an example how foundation gift or donors have enhanced the lives of residents at Spring Lake Village?
Well, I think particularly there's interest in the circle of friends because we have a lot of compassion for the people who outlive their financial resources. And that's been a real plus to be able to augment their resources to allow them to stay here. So no one has to leave for financial reasons. So we really strongly support that and have made gifts each year in support of the circle of friends.
A couple of other examples of ways that the foundation has contributed to the life of Spring Lake Village includes funds that help support the beauty of our 35-acre campus, such as plantings in the atrium or helping to refresh and fire mitigate some of our other landscaping. We also have installed a dog park since we've moved in. We have a dog that was of interest to us. And that's been a very popular place for residents with dogs because prior to that time, there wasn't a dog park on campus. You had to drive several miles away to a county park to find a place where dogs could play safely together. And of course, we have a wonderful classical music series, and there's a fund that helps support that music series. In fact, the fellow who leads that series is going to be 100 years old next month. And he's just been a terrific asset in having the ability to provide additional funds to support his music series has been a great gift. One other part I'll comment on had to do with wellness education, which is one of the larger funds from the foundation at the present time. And I asked Diane Waltz, our terrific director of wellness, how she uses those funds. And several things she commented on. One of them is we have an annual active aging week in early November. I think it was November. She hires outstanding speakers to make presentations during that special week. In addition, in the past, they have paid for interns during the summer to help support the wellness programming. And in fact, 2 of those interns are now staff members here at Spring Lake Village. So it's been a great way to introduce talented young people to working here.
Those are great examples, Barbara and Jerry. And I wanted to really point out that those kinds of funds that improve the community are common to all of our communities. And what we love about the structure that we're moving toward with the new Front Porch Communities Foundation, there are resident composed philanthropy committees in the Southern California communities, and we'll be putting those together in the Northern California communities. because the board under Lynn's direction is really focused on local decision-making about funds. I always like to tell people that I don't decide how foundation funds are spent, other than to ensure that if you give $1 for your community fund, that it is spent at that community. So that's the oversight piece. But we want the executive directors and the residents to be working on how to put those charitable funds to use. The other story I just wanted to jump in on, Jerry and Barbara mentioned the assistance fund, the resident assistance fund that we call the Circle of Friends in Northern California. It's very difficult to tell stories about that because it's a very confidential program. Very few people within the organization are privy to the information of who is on assistance, and that's as it should be. That said, though, I did have somebody approach me in a community one day and say, I wanted to thank you. And I said, oh, lovely. I love to be thanked. What are you thanking me for? And she said, I am on the assistance program. And because of the foundation's help, I'm able to stay living here. And she told me her story. She had lost all of her funds in an investment management scandal at the 2008 downturn. And this was someone who had resources and had absolutely no concerns about outliving her resources, right until she had absolutely nothing left. And I thought, my gosh, that could happen to any of us in any way. And what we did was put together a little snapshot for people that the average person on assistance in the Northern California communities is 93 years old. She's a woman who's generally outlived her partner and is on her own at this stage in life, have lived in our communities an average of 18 years. They're part of the fabric of our communities and have made the communities what they are. And almost a third of them are living at a higher level of care. So in assisted living, in the healthcare center, in memory care. So at a time that is perhaps their most frail in life, neighbors and friends are there for them through the assistance funds. And again, that's something I hear from residents in our communities a lot. They appreciate that reassurance and they appreciate the community bond that that really reflects. So.
Yeah, thanks so much. I have a question for Barbara and Jerry. You have supported the Spring Lake Village Community Fund with through charitable gift annuities. Can you tell us a little bit about why you feel planned giving was right for you?
Sure. Everyone can make a planned gift, and we're fortunate to be able to start some of that giving while we're still alive, but we wanted to invest and get some income as well. So the annuity offers quarterly income and will accrue to the foundation when we are deceased. So that's one way to help. And if anybody's interested in finding out more about annuities, I would encourage you to talk with Catherine Miller. She's been very helpful to us, and she can help you, any of you, to figure out what's the best way for you to support the organization. We also have the foundation in our wills, so there will be an additional gift as well as these annuities coming upon our deaths.
And Jerry and Barbara, thank you for mentioning the various ways of giving. It's one of the things that I always like to tell people, that anybody can make a difference. And sometimes they're simply annual gifts. Someone would like to make a cash gift. Sometimes it's an in-kind gift. We had some lovely paintings donated a week ago or so at one of our communities that will be hanging on the walls. We love to have residents work with the executive directors on those kinds of gifts. But as Jerry and Barbara said, we have various planned giving vehicles. There's a priority list that many of us have when we're thinking of our financial planning and our charitable support. And we love to have those conversations with people to talk about how do you use that very, very highly valued stock in your portfolio, that if you sell it, you'll be paying a big capital gains tax to the government. Stock donations make wonderful gifts because we don't have to pay the tax, and it allows a donor to support something without cash out of their pocket. A lot of people are starting to use qualified charitable distributions from their IRAs. And we'll be doing another educational seminar after the first of the year when some of the congressional policies are firmed up with some of the tax law changes. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about the continuation of the IRA QCD. It has been taken off the table a few times, but it's a lovely way to give without the income hitting your adjusted gross income, which for many of our residents, they have complained to me that raises their Medicare rates. It raises their overall tax rate. So we have a lot of ways that we can sit down and talk about ways of making a gift. But what I really love is talking with residents about what they want to try to accomplish, because I think that's really what charitable giving is all about. We have scholarship funds at many of our communities. Mike, I'm sorry that Mrs. Hyde couldn't be with us from Wesley Palms, but they have a very robust employee scholarship program, and many of the Southern California communities do. Spring Lake Village has a scholarship program through a local community college that many residents donate to. It's a nursing scholarship. We'll be looking at working across the organization to develop an organization-wide employee scholarship program. That's my big hope that Lynn and I will be talking more about with the operations team. I think that one of the most moving things for me when I was down at Casa de Mañana in Southern California was hearing the scholarship stories from employees whose families had never accessed higher education. And it's just a life-changing support for them. And I think it's the real reflection of our values as an organization, that it's such a reflection of having a community of people that care about one another, that an employee, or at this particular community, an employee's child can access scholarship funds that will change generations of lives. It's truly, truly moving.
So I see Keith Church on the Zoom, and I'm going to put him kind of on the spot. I wanted to ask him if he had any stories of scholarships, people benefiting from scholarships.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to chat about that, Mike. You know, a good place to start is where Catherine left off. That is Casa de Mañana. You know, has been extraordinarily, has done an extraordinary job of benefiting employee scholars up to 17 in some years, with increasingly large gifts. This year, the scholarships were very significant, as I recall, about $5,000 a piece. In addition, CASA has followed the lead of Vista Del Monte in Santa Barbara, and they have worked with an outside foundation. So our foundation is partnered with another administrator outside to provide scholarships to children of employees. That has had certainly that kind of investment in a 18 or 19 or 20-year-old child of an employee is the kind of investment that pays off big dividends long term, and that has been really exciting. That fund is called Casa de Futuro at Casa de Mañana, and we issued another 6 scholarships this year, a total of $30,000, as I recall, $35,000 this year. So we've seen the benefit at all the communities, the former Pacific Homes Foundation supported communities, in fact, supported communities that I've worked with. Each of those communities has a scholarship program, and it has not only does it benefit retention, candidly. I mean, it helps. I'm sure that Justin will nod. Yeah, it does help with retention to be able to provide those kinds of benefits to folks, especially in a tight job market. But really, folks I think this is indicative of the deepest, most selfless kind of generosity that we see residents express, insofar as sometimes they are providing a scholarship to a much beloved employee, somebody who serves them food or has been their housekeeper. These are folks that they see on a day-to-day basis that they really care about, and they are giving them the tools and the opportunity to, in many cases, get a new job and start a new career path and leave their community. So I've always been very impressed with the level of support those programs have gotten from residents. It's moving, certainly.
We have some stories like that. We have a SLV staff emergency fund, and it was very helpful at the time of the fires. One of our employees lost her home entirely, and we were able to provide community support to her and her family. And there's some very moving stories that come out of people who've received that kind of help.
Thank you for mentioning that, Jerry. That's another fund that is common, Northern and Southern California. And we love the name of the fund in Southern California. Their employee emergency fund is called the Heart Fund, helping employees at risk today. And so we will be merging the two programs, and we will probably be using that name because I think it really does reflect the true intention. It's an emergency fund that our colleagues who find themselves facing crisis can tap. And as Jerry said, the firestorms up in Santa Rosa area a few years back, they were actually 13 Spring Lake Village employees who lost their homes to the fire. And so we had tremendous community support, tremendous support from friends and family. And I think that we see the same thing in our Southern California communities. Residents have shared with us that they really value the people that are on the front lines, especially during the pandemic, serving them and preserving a quality of life and really being a part of their everyday lives in a way that is, if that doesn't speak to community, I don't know what does. For our Northern California friends, Mike, I just wanted to be sure to introduce Keith. Keith is a member of the foundation team, and Keith and I have known each other and worked together through the state level leading age for the last 10 years or so. And so it's delightful to be teammates now. So
Thank you so much, Keith and Catherine. I'd like to open it up to questions right now. Does anyone have any questions? You can either put them into the chat, or you can either raise your real hand or your virtual hand, and we'll answer any questions you have about what you've already heard, or maybe you want to share a story about what's happened at your community. So while we wait for some more questions, I'd like to ask Lynn. You recently told me a story about TV set.
Right. Well, it's actually a computer on the wall. Yes.
but it looks like a TV.
It looks like a TV, huge flat screen. Many of you are familiar, probably on the call. It's called It's Never Too Late, IN2L. And it's an amazing, just think of anything that you would use a computer for, but it's on the wall. And we are finding just a multitude of applications, but one of them, again, it was a gift, and we used it and put it in every single one of our parts of Sunnyview at the time. And in this case, I want to talk about what we did in Summer House, which is our memory care. And we had a particular resident who was declining pretty quickly with, surprisingly, with Alzheimer's and on heavy medication, and very difficult for her family as well. And we got this device, which you get it close enough on the wall at a lower level rather than up high. And there is a piano there. And one of the things that was amazing, and I was telling Mike about it, is it's really an amazing gift in the fact for people with Alzheimer's that one part of the brain, if you've ever played piano, you retain it, which is so amazing. And this one particular resident was quite good as a pianist, and she ended up going out. We set the piano keyboard up for her, and she literally plays fairly regularly Beethoven and Mozart. She's in her own little zone. She's off of her medications, but yet all of her neighbors are just enjoying this amazing music concert for free. So it's benefiting everyone. And I call that really a gift for all. And one other, if I may tell another story too, Mike, one of our members, very much like, that's wonderful, like Barbara and Jerry Porter, they decided to make a gift. They said, we want to see this come to fruition even before I'm gone. And one of the things we did is, he said, I've always wanted a theater here. And so we cleaned out the basement of Sunnyview. I'm sure you all can imagine there's places in all of our communities probably that just have storage for decades. Cleaned out the basement and built an amazing theater and a beautiful lounge for staff, because our residents, as I've heard the porters mention too, we love our staff. And they said for them to have a place to go and relax from their long days, it was wonderful. So I just want you to know that was one of the most incredible gifts that'll keep on giving, because it's a beautiful theater in the basement, literally at Sunnyview.
I've been there. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's great for theater events too, Super Bowls and things like that as well. Any kind of big event people want to participate together. Thank you.
Mike, I wanted to comment on the memory care IN2L system. The residents at San Francisco Towers also gave to support the IN2L system, and they are now building out their memory care neighborhood at the community. We'll probably in February of March of next year, the foundation will, through an endowed fund that was established at Sunnyview, supporting a memory care training called Memory Bridge. It's a 3-day training for staff or for family and friends that work with people who have memory care and cognitive issues. And it is one of those things that I really love to tell people about, because it's a perfect example of how people can make a difference, not only in their community today, but going on into the future. Establishing a permanently endowed fund that generates revenue for a program forever is a legacy that almost anybody can consider. And I love to talk about the memory care projects because they are of such interest to many of our residents. We had at one of our communities, when the memory care neighborhood opened, it was actually made possible by an estate gift from a resident. It was our first memory care neighborhood in the Northern California communities. So again, you know, if you, as in your community, if you have an idea about something that you'd like to see happen, you can always make things possible. So we love to have those kinds of conversations with people.
Does anybody have any other questions? Mary, are there any questions in the queue?
No, actually, we have some really good links to some videos that we could share.
Sure, let's watch some videos.
I've been working at Sunnyview for 16 years.
I've been in the community for about 8 years now. Started when I was 18 years old.
The scholarship experience was marvelous. It really helped me out tremendously.
I heard about the scholarship and I applied for it. I was planning on going to Unitech to be a vocational nurse.
I believe it paid for 5 classes for me. It was enough that I was able to, you know, complete my degree because there were classes that I needed, and otherwise I was just at a point where I could not afford anymore. 2 of my children were in college at the same time, and then I decided to go back, and so the scholarship really saved me and enabled me to complete my degree.
Being a full-time student, it's tough, especially here in the Bay Area. So what that scholarship allowed me to do is kind of just focus on my schooling.
I've been a nurse for a long time, so you kind of get set in your ways. And then when you go back to school and you're learning, oh my gosh, these things have really advanced, and the way that I learned is no longer the way that we're doing it nowadays.
It expanded my knowledge, especially in the field. Coming from, you know, providing care to the residents, to CNA, to being able to do medication management to our assisted living residents, to be able to being a point person in your own unit. They have that belief in you. They allow you to have that specific growth.
And so you really learn a lot more advancement, interventions, current treatment modalities. I really believe it's just made me more up to date. And so anybody that would like to go back to school, I really do try and encourage them to do that. Because not only do I feel it makes you a better rounded person, but I also feel that that knowledge that you gain and the things that you learn make you better prepared to handle new problems that come your way. So I do encourage people, whether it's licensed nurses or CNAs, I really do try and encourage them to go back to school.
Definitely reach out to your upper management, to your directors, and inquire about that scholarship. We have residents that, they came here, they literally saw me grow up. They remember how I looked like 18-year-old kid, about 110 pounds. I'm now doing the admissions for our skilled nursing facility. I love this community. It's so amazing.
This is also one of the funds that a lot of times many staff participate by payroll deduction, but we've had more and more residents that are interested in supporting the fund, especially as they've seen some team members whose families were struggling during the pandemic. And at the same time, we often don't get to share the results because it's sort of a private, confidential matter who's actually helped. So I'm glad that we have a story.
Is there anybody who can name something at their community that the foundation has funded that has really benefited residents over the past few years?
Mike, I'll point out, I see that Ruth Spencer is with us from St. Paul's Towers in Oakland. Hello, Ruth, how are you? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Ruth is an incredible artist and they have a really rich arts program at St. Paul's Towers. And this a few weeks ago, they had a craft and arts fair, and Ruth has these beautiful scarves that she's made, and she sold them, and the proceeds are to support the Circle of Friends Resident Assistance Fund there at her community at the Towers. So we are so grateful, and she's holding a scarf for me, so I'm going to be there in December, Ruth. So
I see Justin Weber on the call, and Justin is our Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing here in Glendale, but he was also the Executive Director at Casa de Mañana in La Jolla for many years. Justin, do you have any examples of programs or enhancements at Casa over the years that the foundation has contributed to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's numerous, right? I mean, in general, the Employee Scholarship Fund is the easy one to point to because it's an annual fund. I mean, I think all the programs we've talked about today are vital to all of our communities. So from the scholarship fund to the resident assistance, we had a few different residents receiving assistance where I was there, and when those recipients get that assistance, to see what it does for their lives is really, really important. And then, I think there's also funds that were raised for capital projects. While I was there, we had a very involved resident base that helped us raise money for some capital projects that they believed in, that they really wanted to happen. For the most part, the capital projects come out of our front porch money, but in certain instances, residents also wanted to see those happen. So, it was a culture of philanthropy that I think was fostered year in, year out, week in and week out, day in and day out. And so it's just a matter of people really investing in their communities. And it's a really cool thing to see neighbors helping neighbors, that's for sure. And to invest not only in your community, but in the organization as well.
Thanks so much, Justin. Barbara and Jerry, investing in your community, I think that's something that you really, really take to heart.
Well, that's right. We really believe in the community, which is not just the residents, but the staff and management, and we're all in it together. And we try to be mutually supportive as best we can. One of the other aspects of the foundation and the organization that hasn't been talked about is the assistance for low-income communities and residents. So we're not only supporting the communities where most of us live, but the residents which are low income and depend upon programs that we provide that enable them to communicate and be able to maintain their independence. So perhaps there's someone who can speak more about that.
Jerry, thanks for mentioning that. I see that Tracy Powell is here with us. She is the Vice President of Community Services, and those in our Southern California communities are probably not as familiar with our community services. It is a suite of programs that serves older adults who are living in their own homes, primarily. And during the pandemic, I think we saw we've always known the value of these programs, but the super value. These are connection programs that help to engage people. And during the isolation times of the pandemic, the demand for these programs soared. So this is actually, the Well Connected program is available by phone and video to anybody across the United States. And so the participation in the program has gone from an original group of about 6 people on a conference call about 15 or 16 years ago. And Tracy and her team have grown it into this nationwide program. There's also a social visiting program that is happening virtually now. We are engaging lots of types of volunteers, and Tracy's team matches them up by interest area. So there are some very, very fascinating cross-geography visits going on with older adults, and many times with younger people who may not live with family or are missing grandparents or wanting to do something for the community at large. Our affordable housing affordability program through Community Services is called Home Match. And it's just an absolutely ingenious program that matches people who are looking for affordable housing with seniors who have houses and are often living alone, may be isolated, may need a little income augmentation. And it's very intensive matchmaking, basically. And the stories that we hear out of the Home Match programs are incredible because it allows people to stay living and working in the community that they have been established in, whether they're an older adult or a working class person. And the foundation works very closely with institutional funders to build out the community services programs. Tracy and your team do an amazing amount of work on a very small budget, but institutional funders, many cities and counties have expressed interest in the Home Match program because they can't afford to keep working wage workers in the city, such as San Francisco, areas that are have such high cost housing. And so we have a number of grants that help support community services, but we're really looking forward to, I think, having the community services programs introduced throughout the Southern California Front Porch communities too, because anybody can take part in these programs. And the museum tours alone on the Well Connected program are worth it for people to get involved in. So yeah, a lot of ways that people can support seniors, older adults, and the building of community, which is really, I think, kind of at the heart of who we are as human beings.
And Catherine, the Porters mentioned that they, one of their preferred methods of giving was plan giving, but there are so many other ways. Can you kind of talk about all the different ways that people may or may not know of the ways that they can give?
Yeah, just, to list them. Writing a check is the easy way. Many of us are used to doing that. My first gifts to charity were in the UNICEF coin boxes when I was a kid, and I would get coins from my parents. And we love cash gifts. A lot of times, as I mentioned, people will talk to me about a planned gift because they have some financial planning priorities. We work with a lot of people who are selling very highly valued real estate that they didn't pay quite so much for 30 years ago. So they are looking at writing a whopping check to the government in capital gains taxes, but establishing a charitable remainder trust helps to bypass some of those taxes, helps somebody generate a nice income, can generate income to heirs, and at the same time helps them to fulfill their charitable priorities. They're very nifty planning tools. And we recently had a resident at one of the communities sell a property they bought literally for, I don't know, $25,000 and sold for $2.7 million. And you can imagine the size of the check that they're going to have to write to the government. But these are people that have a real love for their community and a real love for the assistance program and the scholarship program. And they established a $1 million charitable trust that will, at the end of their lives, go to permanently endow both of those funds at their community. It's just an incredibly moving gift because these are not super wealthy people. They're just people with heart who really love their community. And we were able to work with them to tick off some of their financial planning boxes and those priorities. But at the heart of it was a desire to do something for community. I mentioned the IRA QCDs, qualified charitable distributions from IRAs. Many people have started to establish donor advised funds with trustees. We get a number of donor directed dollars from people's donor advised funds. It's a smart tax planning move. Once the tax laws changed and our charitable deductions are not as valuable anymore come tax time. So people are looking at ways to, again, check the boxes on their financial priorities and still fulfill their charitable desires. The other gift that Barbara and Jerry mentioned, charitable gift annuities, nifty little vehicles. The interest rate that a gift annuity pays is set for life, and it's established by your age. And so I work with residents who love to establish gift annuities when they're in their 80s and the interest rate is great, so that they can really balance their portfolio and have a really steady source of income. But at the same time, at the end of their life, the remainder of the annuity will go to support their community or a program that they really care about. And as I mentioned, many of our colleagues donate to the Heart Fund through payroll deductions. We try to make it easy that it moves me so much when I see frontline staff who are hourly workers and they have a regular deduction from their payroll for the Heart Fund because they feel like they have a job and they can at least share with others who might face crisis. And it's really moving to me because we know that people are often scraping to get by. I know people that are working 2 jobs that are working hourly. And so to be able to sign up for a payroll deduction, to even put $1 or $5 each paycheck toward someone else that might be in need, it's really, again, it speaks to who we are as an organization and who I hope we all strive to be as human beings, that we care about one another. So those are some of the ways. And the last thing I'll mention again, just because I'll plug stock gifts whenever I can. The stock market has really been roaring for the last year and a half. And I had a resident call me one day and she said, you know, I have this Apple stock in my portfolio and I'm not a big investor. I just bought it when I was a secretary and I loved the fact that they made my work easier through computers, microcomputers. So she was one of the early Apple stock purchasers. And her stock now, through all of the stock splits and growth, is worth an amazing amount of money. And she wanted to donate stock because she said, I can't afford to sell this stock. I'm going to have to pay so much in taxes. And so she made a very nice gift to benefit her community. And it was an easy way for her to make a gift. So.
Well, thank you so much. If there aren't any other questions, we're kind of ending. We're reaching the end of the hour, and thank you everybody for participating. I really appreciate it. I just want to remind you, if you would like to see other Strength of Communities that have been recorded from the past, you can go to YouTube and search Front Porch, and there's a playlist on there called Strength of Community. You can also subscribe to our email list at communications@frontporch.net, and you will be notified of upcoming events. So again, thank you everyone. Thanks to our guests. And
if you have more questions about the foundation and you want to get a hold of Catherine Miller, then here you go.